Hey, everybody, welcome on back. It's a Rubbin Is Racing podcast. It's the last one of 2024, and it's brought to you by Cabo Wabo Tequila. You've heard it all from me before. I'm going to say it one last time because I love these guys so much. They're the unquestionably Mexican tequila with an undeniably American attitude. Cabo Wabo isn't just tequila. It's damn good, thick cut, 100% Blue Weber agave tequila. And Cabo Wabo is the official tequila partner of NASCAR, so you can add a bold splash to race day watching with Cabo Wabo. If you're heading to a race this weekend, congratulations. There are no more Cup Series races, but wherever you find a race, or even if you're throwing a holiday party, celebrate with Cabo Wabo. But Cabo Wabo wants to remind you to leave the driving to the professionals, so please enjoy that thick-cut, bold taste of Cabo Wabo tequila responsibly. So grab your buds, a bottle of Cabo Wabo tequila. For the boldest experience ever, you got to be 21 years or older to handle, and you have to handle this stuff responsibly because it is delicious, so you can get carried away. Thank you so much for your continued support, Cabo Wabo. We'll see you next season. Boys, that's it. It's done. We're done with the 2024 season. We're a full house today. It's myself, Spider in New York City, which I'm extremely excited about. We got Quigs in Chicago. Just got through with a huge crying session. We all know why. We got Moonhead.
I had to take a break for the election. That's why I haven't been on the past few episodes.
Right. We got Quigs from A Safe Space. We got Moonhead in the house and Manoli on the ones and twos. So a full boat today. And we have a special guest, and it'll be Joey Logano, who is coming to the New York offices. I believe he's got to bring the trophy, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah. So if not, I have this trophy here for those watching on Rumble or other platforms. I had stole this trophy in Phoenix last year. It's kind of this is heavy, and it's the exact replica of the NASCAR Cup Series trophy. So we have one as well, and that's it. How's everybody doing? Quiggs, how are you doing? How's your mental health lately, Quiggs?
I'm doing great. You know,
yeah?
Election's over. Didn't really care about it, but you know. The people chose who they wanted, so we'll leave it at that.
I think it's time that I tell people that everything that I say about Quiggs being a bleeding heart liberal is 100% true. Just make sure that you know that even if he denies it, this guy is one of those ones. He has a septum piercing that he takes out before every episode, and he always wears a hat to mask his blue hair.
Yep.
I thought you were finally going to free me of this title you put on me. No, just double down.
Yeah, Moonhead, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing great. Even better than last week.
Spider.
So two sides of the spectrum there, exactly. Large. We've got one guy down on his luck and one guy just euphoric.
It's excellent having Spider in the office with me. I haven't spoke to him yet about it, but it is very, organic to be sitting here. I'm jealous that you and Quiggs get to do it every week. That's why I shit on Quiggs every now and again. But it's good to have you back. How's it feel being back in New York?
It's great to be back. I mean, this office is a buzz today, despite whatever narratives exist about it. It's great to see everyone here. A lot of faces I haven't seen in a long while. And, I kind of miss the energy associated with New York City. So great to be in here for a day. Glad that we got Joey Logano joining us, too. So definitely eventful. I feel like every time I've came back so far, it's been for Dale Jr. and now Joey Logano. So I feel like the benchmark of success in NASCAR is, can you get Spider on a flight to New York to do an interview with you? So I'm pumped that Joey Logano's coming in today, and we'll congratulate him firsthand on his championship, which I know is kind of polarizing subject at the moment. So we'll get into that in a little bit, but
want to start off with some of our predictions. We made some predictions preseason. Quiggs had taken them down and sent it to us just a couple hours ago. I totally forgot about a lot of these. Some of them I think are points of discussion, starting with Spider. One of his first predictions was that the Xfinity Series will be a more exciting or equally exciting series as NASCAR, or equally exciting as NASCAR. I know on a week-by-week basis, people have reported that Xfinity race beat out anything that I saw the Cup put on the track that weekend. So I think that this had come true, because you can argue something on the bigger picture, but I think it was equally exciting and possibly more exciting than the NASCAR Cup Series. Am I out of my mind, or did Spider get that one right?
I think, unfortunately, actually, should we hear from the panel?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'll go first since it was Spider's prediction. Yeah. Nothing against Xfinity. I think Xfinity had a great season. There were so many races this year in NASCAR that you could put in like some of the best races in the past 10 years. So I think the amount of like unbelievable races we had this year, if you can't say that the Cup was better than Xfinity this year, I don't know if you ever really can. Like there were just so many.
So you're taking the top part of the Cup Series, right? Like the Atlanta finish, some of the other absolute wild ones, and you say just by that little bit of a smaller sample, right? Because we have a longer season, but that it blows Xfinity out of the water?
I think so, because it's not like we had like 2 races that were all-time races. We had probably 10 that you would be like, that was an unbelievable, like, memorable race.
Right. I said 4. I mean, I'm just saying because in the pantheon of like historical races, we did have history be made a couple of times this year, right? So I think
I think I can count at least 3 off the top photo finishes that I recall,
right.
And for that reason, I think I'm gonna have to probably give myself the L with this prediction.
All right, so we have 2 for then that prediction did not come true, and that even though the Xfinity series put on a good product week after week, it's those absolutely outstanding races that puts the Cup ahead.
Aside from that, even aside from the photo finishes we saw, and because that existed in Xfinity too, you saw Ryan Sieg lose on a photo finish deal there too. Mm-hmm. I think the Cup Series just takes it away from me because there was extra reason to watch. You had the final year of Stuart Haas. You had Kyle Busch in pursuit of that trendy and getting a win. Mm-hmm. You had Martin Truex in his last full-time year. Could he even winning the pole in the last race? Could he actually get one final win? There were a lot of storylines to go throughout with the Cup Series this year, and I think we ended up getting probably one of, if not the best Cup Series that I've actually, like, in its entirety, been a NASCAR fan for. As we're new fans, I think this is probably the best season I've come to watch. Now, I don't know if I would say that about the playoffs, and again, we'll get to that, but the regular season, I think Cup Series wins.
Who's better champ, Allgaier or Joey Logano?
I mean, see, and I hate to have a dump in my pants, part of me feels like Allgaier should have been a champ before this year. What was that, his 7th attempt at it, Moonhead, I think?
7th championship.
So,
yeah.
14 years.
So
7th.
Part of me feels like, and I hate to just be like, a Twitter bot right now, but I do think it's worth discussing if this championship format is the best way to determine a champion. A guy like Justin Allgaier, who's been a veteran of the Xfinity Series, on arguably one of my favorite teams, JRM, he should have had one before this. Don't get me wrong. Very happy he won, and he's a deserved champ. But I don't know. Part of me finds it hard to believe that he wasn't a champion already.
So by all measuring sticks, you are saying that your prediction was wrong. I'm going to tell you one of my biggest strengths is that I'm able to change my mind when people offer compelling arguments. I think we need a lot more of that in today's society. And I'm starting to come over to the dark side with you guys and saying that you're probably wrong on this prediction too. By the way, there's no cash prize at the end, so we don't give a shit if we're right or wrong on all these.
All right, so 3-0. Moon, your vote doesn't even count.
Yeah, don't.
But I really want to hear your
You're
take.
essentially New Jersey. Your vote doesn't count. Go ahead.
I think y'all are exactly right with the Cup Series as far as big moments and all-time races, memorable races. They take the cake. But I think there were also some very, very, very bad Cup races.
Yeah, there
too.
were some stinkers.
There were some Cup races that I will talk about for great reasons probably for the rest of my life, and then there were others that I will talk about for bad reasons for the rest of my life. Xfinity, I can't really think of one that was bad. I think consistently for 30 weeks or whatever, they had good races and little to no stupid drama. Most of the drama was on the racetrack. So for that reason, I would put my vote on Xfinity being better, even though Cup had a very, very memorable year for probably a good third of the season.
Is it fair to say that Xfinity having more of a consistently good season versus the Cup having random bright spots? Is Xfinity the Kyle Larson of series and the Cup Series the Joey Logano? You know what I mean, what I'm saying here? Because we're going to get into that a lot, today probably. So that might even be a fair way to say it, no?
Yeah, I would say that's a good comparison.
Second thing that Spider had predicted, we had asked Quiggs, myself, and Spider to give 3. I don't think Moonhead had participated in this one because we didn't trust him yet. But Spider had said a Hendrick driver will lift the Bill France trophy. That didn't happen, right? And we know that did not. And then finally, this one, Ross Chastain will take a massive step forward.
Yep.
Spider?
I thought he was going to be, so he got neutered. I thought the balls were going to be reimplanted this season, and it really didn't seem to be the case. I would say, his teammates had just as good of a showing this season as Ross did. Daniel Suarez got a win, and then Ross had one as well. But it seemed like all eyes were elsewhere at Trackhouse this year between the attention his teammates got, and I think again another loss. I would have liked to see Ross get back to 2022 when he had a pretty breakout season, started winning races. So we didn't really see that from Ross this year, and I would have liked to. I would have liked to see his name be one of them in contention in the playoffs.
I think that take would have been right if it was Trackhouse will take a massive step forward.
Yeah.
Because not necessarily even like results-wise, but maybe just like the moves they made this year for their future. I think they did a lot of good stuff this year. And
So
Ross wasn't bad this year. Like
No.
I think the word massive might be what makes it. That's not a true.
I was expecting like a 2022 season from him, and we didn't really get that. So success all around from Trackhouse this year, but Ross specifically, no.
Buy, sell, or hold Ross Chastain's 2024 Cup Series season, Moonhead.
Oh, dude, I'm not smart enough to really know which one means which there.
I'm
but
sorry. Do you think he did better? Is it something that sort of stayed the same, or are we selling this fucking guy?
Is job security get worse or better?
Oh, no, I think
fuck, marry, kill.
This year didn't hurt him. Yeah. No, this year didn't hurt him. I would say, I mean, it wasn't massive, but he didn't do bad. He won a race. And I think, like Quiggs said overall, it was just a big year for the future of Trackhouse. And it seems to me like he's a guy that they want to build around and keep there for the long haul. And I don't think he did anything to hurt that. So I think, obviously, if he's having this same season 3 years from now, maybe it's a different conversation. But I think for where Trackhouse is as a team, he did about all that could be asked of him.
And I'm looking at his stats. His stats now, he had 14 top 10s, 6 top 5s. By no means a bad season. I want to make sure I'm not mincing words. I have taken inadvertent shots on this show before. So Ross had a good season. My point is I guess I expected him to be in victory lane more consistently.
All righty. Quiggs' predictions. Ty Gibbs at least 2 wins this season. We're all very high on Ty at least getting his first win this season. Didn't happen. I am relatively sure that it is going to happen next season. I still don't know if I would take 2.5 on next season.
I don't either. Because he had a great year. Like he drove great this year and just didn't get any wins. Like I would not say Ty had a bad season. But I guess it is always bad when you never get a win. But I thought he looked good. Every week seemed like the week that could be Ty's win, and it just never happened. But yeah, that was a little ambitious. I didn't even have to say 2. I could have just said 1.
You could have. You were telling Spider you got a little too specific when you fucked yourself there with that one.
Well, I had him for 1, and that's still in the loss column. Yeah. So I don't know. Don't beat yourself up too much, Quiggs.
I might make the same prediction next year.
I think he's.
I might go 3 next year.
Nice. Who's going to win more races next year? Carson Hocevar, Ty Gibbs, or Kyle Busch?
Ty Gibbs. Ty Gibbs will win more than both of them.
Kyle Busch.
Yeah, but I mean, I could easily see. I mean, we talk about RCR at plate tracks. I could see Kyle Busch. He won a Talladega race recently too, so I could easily see him pulling one off there. Or I mean, obviously he's got the skill set pretty much everywhere. So. I don't know. I
think everyone's predictions next season are going to be a lot more broad.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, track out whatever we do to kind of paint in shades of gray. I think it works out better for us. Moonhead, Carson Hocevar, Ty Gibbs, Kyle Busch. Who has the most wins next year?
It's tough for me to bet against Kyle Busch because I feel like if RCR, I mean, they're just a little bit of setup knowledge away, I think, from having really fast cars with a really good driver. But if I have to go right now, I think the likelihood is Ty Gibbs will get one first and probably get the most. Because I think once he wins one, I think I said it last week, when he wins one, I think he's going to start firing them off. So not to say Busch or Hocevar won't get a win, because I definitely think, I mean, both of those guys have had flashes of greatness, but Gibbs, it's hard to go against a Gibbs car with Ty Gibbs in it. Especially when he's on his third winless season. Like, he's going to be hungry.
What was the stat when Harrison Burton won? It was like it takes around like an average of like 100 starts before the Cup guys typically get their first win. Even some of the biggest names. I don't know.
Elliott and Larson did it a race after Harrison had, so almost 3 full seasons.
So my point is that next season we need to have whatever race that ends up falling on for around 100th start. Those couple weeks we need to be on Ty Gibbs, Carson Hocevar watch, because I think that stat is pretty accurate. And there might be something to that.
And I don't know if people are wondering why I put Carson Hocevar in the mix with this, but we did speak about him in detail last week, and we said that he seems like the type of guy, if he can get it together, he still can be a menace on the track, and he got his fucking ass handed to him by the broadcasting crew and beyond with the way that he had raced last week. So we kind of put him in there in that mix too, and Kyle Busch we put in just because he's interesting to talk about. What else did Quiggs say? Denny will win most popular driver. We won't know about that for another couple of weeks, but I'm willing to guarantee that that's not going to happen.
I would say
is that fair to say?
Yeah, I would put it as an outside long shot if I were an odds maker right now.
That prediction was like off the heels of the Netflix doc, and I thought it was going to ride that momentum, and I would say he'd be. I don't even know if they do like
top 5
the rankings, but he'd be a top 3 in that for sure.
You think so?
Nah.
I think he'd be top 5. I don't know 3 because I would
popular, not liked. So
can I ask you a question, Spider, before you go? Did Quiggs make that fatal error too? Would he say, if I said to you guys, anybody but Chase Elliott is going to win most popular driver this year, is that still a possibility? Because you're about to say where he'd be in the top 5, and you're about to go 1, 2, 3.
Yeah,
and he might not fit in. Do you think that Chase Elliott's going to win it again this year?
I
don't know what the nature of the voters are. I don't know if Chase has got a bot farm in his basement or whatever. I don't know what the nature of the voters are in this thing, so it's impossible to tell.
I do think Chase will win it again.
I think Chase just wins it. Like, it just happens.
I think Ryan Blaney, and I know I'll save my predictions, but I think he has a real opportunity to win it in next year, because I think he's going to be the star of the Netflix series this year. At least that's my take. Even when we saw him in Miami Large, they were wired up. Gianna and Ryan both said that they always had cameras around them, and they were learning to live with just phasing him out. So hopefully we get a lot of Blaney screen time in the next Netflix doc, but I think he would probably be my favorite for next year. Well, maybe not favorite, but favorite outside of Elliott.
We're coming up on our 6th prediction collectively, and I think this might be the first one that we got right. Quiggs, Legacy will have just as bad of a year this year as last. Legacy did not have a good season. I think that's nail on head.
And I've been beating that drum for a while.
It pains me to say, but I think Quiggs was right on this one. And I love Legacy. I want them to be better, but they're just not. They're not what I think they could be, unfortunately. So
it's tough for them.
Yeah.
I was so angry when Quiggs made this prediction that my first prediction was Eric Jones will get a win this year, and I was dead fucking wrong.
He had some bright spots, and forgive my aging brain for not being able to call him out off the top, but I feel like there were some good spots. But overall, I think Quiggs' sentiment was right and accurate for this year.
And another one where I picked with my heart, SVG will struggle in Xfinity. Will be bounced before the round of 8. What do we think about SVG? So he finishes the season Xfinity, I think, ranked 12th in the rank. I don't know if he made it to the round of 8, to be quite honest with you. I didn't check this because, again, we just had these before we got on air, so I didn't look through them. But I would have to say, even if he didn't make it to the round of 8, and if he had ended the season ranked 12th, I think this was still a good year for SVG, right? I think.
If we're asking the same Chastain question, buy, sell, hold, I would buy SVG.
Yeah.
And, I mean, from everything we saw this year, I think he did what he had to do. He cut his teeth, and it seemed that he was learning week in and week out. Even on the ovals, there were times where I tuned into a race, and SVG would be, top 10 at oval track where he was kind of an afterthought, or they were just trying to fast forward the season to another road course. And it never really felt like that for him this season. It seemed like I said, every week he went out to whatever track it was and tried to take away as much information, learn as much every single week, which I think is admirable, especially for a guy who's not a young spring chicken. So I'm buying SVG. I think he did what he had to do this year, and impressed, if anything.
You see a ceiling for SVG?
I mean,
You guys see it?
his ceiling is whether or not he can figure out, which isn't really the definition of what a ceiling is, but like the thing that'll hold him back is whether he gets out of the like road course ringer thing and becomes very competitive on a regular basis on all the other ovals.
I would say his ceiling is NASCAR playoff driver, NASCAR Cup Series playoff driver.
This year. Because he is going up to the Cup next year, you're saying. So in 2025, are you expecting
I
him to make
don't-
it to the round of 12? Round of 16, right? Yeah, 16.
Yeah, I think he'll be in the playoffs next year. But again, we're doing
Oh, absolutely, because he'll get a road race.
right.
Yes, yeah.
So
Right, but I'm
he'll
saying
auto-
I'm saying large as his ceiling. I think his ceiling is making the playoffs. I don't see him making a deep run. And who's to say? I mean, the schedule
Well-
changes. You could easily have a road course.
I was going to say, you'd have to look at the tracks like in each round, because he could,
right
in theory, like road course his way deep
to a
into the
championship.
playoffs.
Yeah,
Right. But
Yeah.
at the first round of the championship this year, and we do have that answer, doesn't contain a road course, then there's a good chance that he's fucked.
And he'll be
SVG
going up
Bihole-
against the big dogs, so it's not like he just
Yeah.
road
Right.
course he automatically
but
wins.
but Quiggs, he went up against the big dogs
No, I know,
in his
but-
debut. Yeah,
and he'll still be probably the favorite in those races, but like
And
he,
Allmendinger's coming up too. So one of the
Yeah.
big dogs that's going to be against him
Yeah,
is
the-
a traditional road course.
the
ringer.
road course races next year should be spicy. Put that down on my predictions for next year. Better more exciting road course racing.
What do you think SVG's year, Boone?
I agree with y'all. I think he did everything he needed to do. I think next year he'll probably not have a great year next year just because it's Cup and there's going to be a big learning curve and it's different from Xfinity, but I think the road courses will keep his confidence high. And he's a damn good plate racer. I don't think he gets enough credit for how quick he picked up on the super speedway stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like he wrecked in some of them, but he was up there in the mix in most of them, I felt like. And so I wouldn't be surprised to see him contending at those tracks either.
Also, back to the whole thing, when he first came on the scene, we were talking about how his discipline of racing didn't really allow any contact driving. I think something like that, where a guy that's just been brought up on just clean driving his whole career, it's a testament to his success, like we've seen at plate tracks, Moonhead. He has a knack for staying out of it, which is pretty impressive for a guy that's not well-versed in that style of racing, at least from my perspective.
I hate him, but I think that it's one of those things where he's just going to get better and better. So if he's a good plate track racer, if he's an elite road course racer, he can get himself where he's like, you know, I'd figure out short tracks or something like that. And this guy's going to be he's going to be a fly in the ointment for a long time to come. And I could see that my prediction, I might buy a fucking T-shirt by the end of 2025 just out of respect for what this guy is doing, even though I can't stand him. And the last prediction is mine, which I think is probably the best prediction we made. Allgaier is going to win the Xfinity Championship. I pulled that one out of my fucking ass. I think I would have put a couple of bucks on it, but obviously I'm not that smart. So those are the predictions from last year. Mixed bag and something to talk about. So we're going to do them again at the beginning of next season. So it was from earlier this year. We'll do it again at the beginning of next season. Talk about some headlines. We talked about legacy. Jimmy Johnson says he's coming back for select races in the 2025 season. In 2 partial seasons, driving the number 84, Jimmy Johnson is an average finish of 31.8. His 26th place finish at Phoenix was his best finish since he's come back for these 2 partial seasons. People have explained it to me multiple times that it's good for sponsors to see Jimmy Johnson in the car. It's good for the whole deal. I just don't know how a guy who is that competitive and stuff like that still wants to go out there and finish 32nd. But I guess that's not for me to figure out.
I think it'll be good. I'm
Yep.
glad he's back. His name in the field is a welcome addition at any point. He's a legend. He remains a legend. So, yeah, hopefully next year we can get better results for them.
Yeah. I mean, I looked it up. It was like 50,000 at Phoenix. It's fucking weird because I'm sure when he was peeling off championship after championship, you've never seen Jimmy Johnson with that. And I don't know. It's just kind of fucking weird. FedEx is leaving NASCAR after 20 years of sponsorship. Should we be worried that FedEx is packing up, or is this one of those things where it just rotates? 47 of Denny's 54 career Cup Series victories have come with FedEx colors on his car.
Yeah, I hate it. I hate it.
I love the paint scheme.
Same.
Yeah.
And I don't even necessarily like care about FedEx, with all due respect. It's not like a product or a company I'm overly passionate about. Whereas like you look at Kyle Busch and M&M's, like I could actually genuinely get behind that. But my point is, it's a similar energy. These were lasting flagship sponsors that ran on cars pretty much week after week for decade plus, that are no longer in the sport. And that to me is a little concerning and a little, I don't know, not good. I don't like that. I would obviously like to see these teams stick to, lasting relationships. And granted, they had one, but it's just sad to see another lasting, long time, big sponsor leave the sport.
Do you take solace in the fact that it might be FedEx? Like, when you break up and it's not you, it's me type shit. Like FedEx is bleeding money, so they're cutting a lot of their sponsorship stuff.
But even so, I mean, sure, I would look at the M&M example. They said they're going to do away with their like kind of mascot-y M&Ms, and they were going to like remove the human qualities from them to make them all the same. And then, people got upset and there was outcrying, and what they do, they went and reversed it. And now those M&Ms are still on the TV. We still see them. What they didn't do is M&Ms is still not back in NASCAR. So unfortunately, Large, I think these companies just have to make business decisions where they seem to keep coming back to the common denominator that it's the NASCAR is no longer worth it, which again is painful to me. And hopefully I'm just reaching.
But do you think all sports aren't worth it? Like, do you think that this is more of FedEx saying, we're not spending our money on sports anymore? Not necessarily NASCAR, which is still concerning for a sports media
I mean, don't they
outlet.
have the FedEx Cup, and they spend a shit ton in golf? And isn't I don't know.
I don't know. This is a bigger conversation, but like I've never, and I know it's a practice that's been around for forever, but like I've never fully understood advertising and like how it's worth it ever. Like the amount of money they put into stuff sometimes. And like podcast ads and stuff like that, where it's like, I just don't see what you're spending on this ad getting that much in profit or revenue from that. And I know it does work because it's something that's been around for a long time and there's a lot of science behind it. But yeah, there's just a lot of things that I don't, with advertising, like I don't know if you ever really get your money out of it fully.
Especially to be on Denny's car, you have a flagship driver, you got a great team behind you building the car. Like that has to be costly to be in contention for those wins. It's one thing to sponsor a back marker, that won't get much screen time, but I don't know. And hopefully that Joe Gibbs doesn't take too big of a loss. The other thing is, I feel like Joe Gibbs is pretty, I don't know. They seem to be a little bit more nimble in the sense where, and again, I feel like I'm just speaking out of my ass for a big portion of this, but like other teams, you see them where they'll go and sign Ryan Preece if it means Kroger is coming along with them for sponsorship, or they'll entertain pay drivers. Joe Gibbs Racing doesn't really seem like that kind of place. They seem like they're going in and trying to compete for champions. And now, without pretty much a consistent chunk of their funding, they're going to have to look for that in other ways with new companies that may only have funding to be on the car for, X amount of races a year. So I don't know. Hopefully Joe Gibbs doesn't lose too much from this, but I don't like it.
They don't have the B2B.
Maybe that's what it is. I was reading an article on someone that's way smarter than I am that was explaining why Joe Gibbs Racing is at a disadvantage when it comes to team sponsorship.
So if you have a place like Hendrick, right? So they have their cars.
Right.
And so Napa Auto Parts, they're going to say every Hendrick car that we're going to make sure that we use Napa.
Right.
Penske with the Pennzoil car. Penske is one of the biggest, they rent cars, right? So they're going to fill up all their cars, tanks with, Sunoco or whatever the hell it is. And so that's what drives that relationship. It's almost like what we used to call soft dollar in Wall Street. Like, I wouldn't pay you any commissions, but I'll pay for your fucking, I don't know, some sort of service. So there's all these soft dollar or B2B agreements. And you're right, Joe Gibbs doesn't have that. So it's tough to just replace it. It helps having a guy like Denny Hamlin up there because you know that you're going to be on TV every fucking week.
Yeah.
You know?
And you know what? I want to say something.
No?
Where the Commanders play was formerly called FedEx Field. It's now called Northwestern Stadium. So maybe there is something to what you were saying, and that they are just lessening their spend in sports, which would be ideal. And hopefully, what's not ideal is what I suggested, which is they just said fuck NASCAR.
And it doesn't have to be forever. If the country gets great again.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say it. Things have gotten expensive here lately.
Yeah.
And a single. I'm sure. I don't know the financials of the FedEx deal, obviously, but I'm sure when FedEx came into NASCAR, they were probably getting a whole season for what they're getting a few races for now. So, and I'm sure sports across the board. I'm sure like ads are expensive, but they could probably take that money that they're getting, however many races they got this year, which already wasn't many. I feel like it was pretty low for FedEx and Denny, and probably spend it somewhere else and be the face of whatever that sporting event, whether it's the golf deal or naming rights to something. So I think until they can get the cost per race down, that's why a lot of people complain now, because the cars look different every week. Like when I was a kid, the cars pretty much looked the same every week, unless they were doing some sort of special promotion with the same sponsor or had like a one-off deal. And now it's like every week. I mean, look at like William Byron. It's 1 week he's Liberty, 1 week he's whatever the hell. And then same with pretty much everybody else. So I think it's really just the cost of the sport. And obviously I think that's something that Denny himself is trying to address in some places. So
you know what? Oh, sorry.
Hopefully Spider's not right. Like, I hope it's not that NASCAR's not effective at being, a place for someone to sponsor. It's more the price point on that sponsorship that's turning people away.
You know which advertiser we should look into and just how they're spending money? Ty Gibbs, like, you should believe in God.
Oh, he gets us.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know where that, like, where does that money, is that...
It's because they're religious, and I feel like religious organizations, and I could be wrong again, I'm just kind of speculating, don't they get big, massive tax breaks?
They're tax havens.
Right.
Yes.
So they just spend all their money, and I think I even see he gets us commercials on TV, which
I
honestly,
see him all the time,
out of all the like brands to sniff out on their bullshit, that is the least concerning one to me. There's other shit that runs on cars that I'm just like, dude, what is this?
No, I know it's not a bad mess. It's just one of those things that's like, who's paying for this?
Yeah.
So it's the Vatican. So the Vatican melts down a tabernacle once a season and then gives all of that raw gold to NASCAR to smelt themselves, and that's what they make into the rings that they give out to their champions and whatnot. So now there's your answer. Put that in the fucking books. Carson Osvar, Rookie of the Year. Congratulations to Carson. I think that he's got a ton of upside, as we had just mentioned. Listen, we talk about headlines and rumors, so let's get it out because it's the end of the year. Denny Hamlin says Daytona is in question. I don't see a universe where Denny thinks it's feasible for 2311 to race in the Clash. Doesn't seem like that's, with this, everything that's going on with the lawsuit between 2311 and NASCAR, so they won't necessarily be guaranteed spots in any races going forward in 2025, right? The judge decided to block any kind of injunction for that. So Denny is saying now that the Clash and possibly Daytona is in question. Do you see a universe where 2311, especially with Martin Truex supposed to be driving for them in the Daytona 500 in 2025, do you see any kind of universe where these guys do not show up to race in February?
I don't know, and I'm not a lawyer. I don't know enough or understand necessarily the whole lawsuit thing. Mm-hmm. I think it's more likely, this is going to sound crazy, hear me out, and I saw this on the messaging boards, that
this is the time to talk about that shit.
I've been hearing people say that, and I don't necessarily believe this or even know if this is possible. Tyler Reddick and Denny Hamlin could theoretically switch rides, in which Tyler Reddick would go and race for Joe Gibbs because in his contract there's something about being guaranteed a spot on a chartered spot, if you will, or race for a team that has a charter. Mm-hmm. So maybe to fulfill that Denny would have to switch with him and race for his own team eventually. I don't know. I don't really know how the dust is going to settle with all this. But I'm of the opinion I can't envision a world where three-time Daytona 500 champion Denny Hamlin isn't racing in some capacity. I don't see that. We've just long spoke about how good it is when we get new international drivers,
right?
Or new faces, whether it be retired guys coming back, and the little extra emphasis that puts on any given race. I think that would be multiplied 10x if we went the other way with it, and instead of talking about Kobayashi's racing today or whoever it may be, it's Denny Hamlin's not racing today.
Right. Well, and it wouldn't be Denny. I did misspeak. Obviously, he'd be racing for Joe Gibbs on it, but there would be no 2311 cars entered into the Daytona 500. So you'd have Michael Jordan and Denny Hamlin's juggernaut that they send somebody to the championship for in only their 4th year in existence or whatever the fuck it is. And now all of a sudden they're not at America's greatest race. And that whole thing with the 11:45 switching and what the implications would be without FedEx maybe bringing Monster over to Joe, more Monster over to Joe Gibbs. Like that's an enticing rumor. I think it's cool. It's fun to talk about. We're not saying that there's any. What are you giving on the Spidey scale, A through F? That rumor?
I would say C.
C,
it's
okay,
not.
good.
It's not my report.
Yep.
It's just something I saw that is kind of like a little bit of I don't know, something to talk about. And I think it's interesting. And again, like I said, I'm not a lawyer. I don't know what's going to happen with this lawsuit. I'm very interested to see. But personally, I think all the drivers that we expect in the 500 next year will race in the 500, with the exception of maybe Martin Truex. I think we might have gotten a little trigger happy with that one and kind of spoke that into existence before knowing, how the ramifications of the whole lawsuit and everything. But I would expect 2311 drivers in Daytona 500. Now, could I see them holding out for the Clash to try to throw some emphasis on their point? Absolutely. Kind of, with all due respect, kind of like an exhibition throwaway practice warm-up race. So I could easily see that, but I do expect them to start for the 500. Guys, what do you think about that? Is that a crazy take?
No, it's not. Definitely not crazy, but I think if there's two guys that'll play hardball and will do whatever it takes to win the lawsuit, it's Denny and MJ. They don't seem like the kind of guys that'll roll over and be like, "Oh, season's starting. We're gonna kind of give up the point we've been trying to make." So I could see them playing hardball and
that hardball would be stubbornness and not bring their cars to the track at all.
Hardball would be we're not budging on what we want out of this lawsuit, and you're not gonna put our backs against the wall with the season and make us give up things that we've been asking for.
Is it possible to make an intelligent guess on this? I mean, I have no idea. Moonhead, you'll be the first to say you don't know shit about the legal ramifications of things. Is it possible, as a guy who just wants to watch good racing, is it possible to make a guess on what's going to go on, or is it just all moot points?
I think they'll show up to Daytona for sure. The rumor Spider talked about, I haven't seen that, but that I could see that happening totally. That would make sense. The Clash, I would not be shocked at all if they sit that one out, especially it's 4 chartered teams. I think they require all the chartered teams to be there. So I think for that reason alone, they might sit it out on principle. Yeah. But also the Clash, I mean, I know they're doing it at Bowman Gray instead of the Coliseum, but it's going to be the same deal where you go there and you just tear a car all to hell, and there's no guarantee you even make the feature. I mean, we've seen people go out there, run one heat race, destroy their car, then go home. So I don't think, if they're not a chartered team and not required to be there, I don't know why you would even bother going. So I could see them sitting that one out. But I have a hard time believing they won't go to Daytona. I think there's too many obligations, and I think it'd be short-sighted for them. I know they want to stick it to NASCAR, and they probably should, but they also need to keep their sponsors and all their people happy too, and they're not going to do that by staying home. So I think if they think that there's light at the end of the tunnel and they can make something happen with this lawsuit, it's probably in their best interest to keep their sponsors happy.
I hear you. All right, so that's nobody knows, right? I mean, so that's it. Nobody knows. All we know is that we're going to be at Bowman Gray next year. Spider and I, at least, are going to be at Bowman Gray. We're going to be at We got like a murderer's row in February. I think we're Bowman Gray, Daytona,
and
then
Atlanta. Yeah, and the Clash is a fun event. As much as I said throwaway race, that's not what I meant. Especially Bowman Gray next year. Very much looking forward to that event. So
they should let you two drive the 23 and the 45.
You know what? They should let us drive
a pace car.
The pace
that guy
car.
Fucking sucked.
Yeah, anybody.
That was egregious.
The
drivers, I guess, they were joking that it was like Michael Phelps still driving it during the race.
Yeah. Or Whitney Cummings.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Michael Phelps off a bong rip driving the fucking pace car.
One of the things that I had seen, because we were throwing around the $622,500 worth of fines that NASCAR handed down after Martinsville. I was listening to the radio and somebody had a great question. After all the fines, the NASCAR Foundation gets that money. The NASCAR Foundation, which does a lot of good throughout a lot of communities. Who gets the write-off, though? Like, it's a charitable deduction, right? Because it's no longer a fine. You are writing that check. Do you write it to NASCAR? Then NASCAR then writes a check to the foundation. They get the write-off? Or do you get the write-off if you're fucking Bubba Wallace and you got to cut a check for $100,000? That's a huge nuance. We don't have the answer to that.
That's a rich person Wall Street brain thing to think about.
I bet it all goes back to the He Is Us. They get the write-off.
Yeah, that's how they make all their fucking
all the money gets funneled back into He Is Us.
Let's talk about what had happened this weekend. Before we do, I'm going to give out the last Nobody's Cooler of the season. It's brought to you by Cars.com. Buying a car is awful. It's an awful experience. You don't know who to trust or anybody. You sometimes don't know where to start. And I'm telling you right now, a place where I've started a couple of times and a place that I trust is Cars.com. I think you should too. Want to find trustworthy dealership reviews for shoppers like you? Cars.com offers the latest research, shopping tools, and dealership reviews to help every shopper find the perfect car. Shop by monthly payment, or filtered by features to find the cars that fit the budget and the needs. Visit Cars.com and start exploring your next possibility today. I'm giving it to Martin Truex because I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to talk about Martin Truex again. And the reason I'm giving it to Martin Truex is because Spider and I think you guys have also met this dude, Nascar Chasm.
Yeah.
That guy?
Yeah, he's great.
He's fantastic. We were with him in Chicago for a little bit because we were sharing that influencer thing. Just the nicest guy in the world. And he's very, very funny. He gives great social and he does social on his own and also some for NASCAR too. And I don't know. He's a very good follow, NASCAR Chasm. And he had shared something with his followers, with his friends about, his wife had gotten cancer. So he was keeping people up throughout the process of how his wife was doing, which I thought was kind of cool and, sharing it with his fans and whatnot. So he writes this story, which I think is cool as shit because Martin Truex is known as a guy who doesn't say much. Doesn't do much. Maybe doesn't have a lot of emotions when maybe he should. They gave him a standing O at the drivers' meeting. I got a little choked up about it, and it didn't seem like he was getting choked up about it.
No, he seemed uncomfortable.
He
didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
He started like clapping for himself. But
right. Again, that's not a character flaw. That's just Martin's character.
Right.
So the reason that I'm giving him Nobody's Cooler is because I had read this from NASCAR Chasm. This year at the Roval, it's like moments before the invocation. I'm heading to one of the porta potties on pit road, but out of the corner of my eye, I see Martin Truex Jr. in a sprint, hopping over pit wall and heading to the same porta potty that I was. He got places to be, so I stop and say, "You first." And he smiles and says, "Thanks, bud." He then exits, and I'm certain he's sprinting back to the grid, so I say, "Good luck today." Instead, he stops, comes over to me, places a hand on my shoulder. "How's your wife doing, bud?" That's fucking extraordinary. I'm equal parts stunned and flattered. She's doing good. Everything is looking up. I think that's what I said. And this is what Martin says back. "Okay, well, we're all thinking about you and praying for you, pal. Hang in there." He says this probably before making it back to his car, milliseconds before pre-race ceremonies begin. So the whole NASCAR community has shared the same sentiment throughout this whole thing. But for Martin to stop, even for a couple of seconds, to wish us, this guy and his wife, well before firing the engines, exemplified him well. And I will always be grateful for those words. That's who he is. Congratulations on a great career, and thanks for being awesome, Martin Truex Jr. And on top of all the accolades, on top of all the fucking ponds that he was given, and I'm sure fishing rods and all that stuff, he's got the Nobody's Cooler for the last edition of 2024. So thanks for the memories Martin.
That's well deserved.
I think so. That's kind of
that
cool.
was awesome. That was a great story, and I missed that tweet, so I'm glad you shared that, Large.
Yeah, he's a good guy, like I said, so give him a follow.
Truex, yeah, we're going to miss him. I realized watching our vlog the other day, Large, that when we said what up to him in the driver's meeting at Miami, could be potentially like one of the last interactions we'll have with him. Who's to say how often he'll be around the track next year? We hope to see him around, but like you said, he's a reserved, quiet guy. But I think that story speaks volumes, and he will definitely be missed at the track.
Yeah, true gentleman. Trucks. Ty Majeski leads 132 of 150 laps. That's called an ass whooping to become the Truck Series champion. Congratulations to him. And we mentioned from the top, I'd called it back in February. Little Gator, after 14 years and 7 Champ 4 appearances, Justin Allgaier wins his first Xfinity championship. Congratulations to him.
Couple thoughts on that.
Please.
One, we were talking about long-lasting brand partnerships, and one, I just want to say it's really cool for not only Justin Allgaier, but also a company that's been working and on his car for as long as I can remember, to see them collectively win a championship, I thought was really cool. Dale Jr., including them in the celebration, obviously, was really cool for that. And then also, Large, for the anyone's cool or nobody's cooler, I got beat. Mine was going to be Kelly Earnhardt Miller, who basically runs operations, Dale Jr.'s sister, who runs operations for JRM. I think she's one of the coolest people on pit road, and seeing her celebrate with Gator and alongside the sponsors and the team and Dale Jr. was really cool. So really, really excited to see the Xfinity result. I think that season wrapped up beautifully and was happy with the way everything went.
I don't know Ty Majeski. I don't think we've ever spoke to him.
No.
But we had to do a live show with Justin Allgaier.
Yeah.
And it was with a tarp that kept falling down and hitting me in the head. I'm the tallest guy in the world, much less tallest guy when it comes to hanging out with drivers. And we just had a really good time with him. He's just a really fucking great guy.
Yeah, to see his parents there, emotional as he won, and you know, the sacrifices they made for his career, and you know, the work he's put in to finally call himself a champion. I thought that was really cool, and I thought Saturday was awesome. Yeah,
congratulations to him. Cup Series, Ty Gibbs, our guy that we're talking about, hits the wall in lap 2. He's done for day. It was upsetting. Pace car also hit the barrels. It was kind of a weird but relatively boring race. Penske swept the stages. Joey won stage 1. Blaney passes Bell for stage 2. I think Bell had the most laps led in that race. And then Joey, it becomes the 10th driver with 3 championships. Congratulations to Joey Logano. And that's all we're going to say about that. There's nothing else to say about that win or about that race. Let's ask for people's reactions to whether or not it's a good race and what we're pissed off about, if anybody is pissed off about it. Spider, if you don't mind, can I defer to the guy who seemed the most pissed off,
at least
online this weekend? And by far, it was Moon. And I didn't see Quiggs. Are you pissed off about anything? Or do you think Moonhead's the most pissed out of all of us?
I think Moonhead by far. I didn't even. This will be kind of fresh for me because I looked at the group chat and the length of messages he was sending. I was like, I can't even. I'm not even gonna try to read this. So, but I can tell he was pissed about something.
I will never read those texts unless Moonhead was saying, no, read the text. They fit perfectly, because I know sometimes in the heat of the moment, we send out shit. And that I'm not proud. A lot of stuff I send out is extremely inappropriate. But so I won't do it. But Moonhead, so with a little bit of time in between when this race ended and when we're recording, today's Tuesday that we're recording, how do you feel about this whole thing? How do you feel about this Cup Series championship?
The Cup Series, I was mad all weekend. Cole Custer, I crashed out on Cole Custer on Saturday night too. So I do want to apologize to Cole. He is a great guy. But God damn it, did he cost me some money?
Yeah, that's right.
I was right there with you, Moonhead.
Yeah. Sunday though, man, I complained about the format going into the race, so I was already bitter about what the hand we had been dealt. And then just combining it with, in my opinion, one of the worst races of the year to send us into the off season. It seems like a slap in the face to the NASCAR fan, because like we talked about earlier, a third of the Cup races this year were really good. There were some really bad ones, but I think overall there was positive momentum, and ending on a debatable champion winning a shitty race, and then that's it. We're going into the off season, and that's fresh on our mind for the next whatever 100 days or whatever it is till Daytona. So like, I don't know. It seems, it almost doesn't even feel real. Like, it just doesn't feel like, I'm sure to Joey it feels great. I do think he's catching too much heat for this because he did what he had to do to win the championship.
I was just saying, we're all on the same page of it's like a NASCAR and a format issue.
Yes,
more
100%.
than like Joey Logano.
We're not all on the same page with that because we're on the same page that it's not any fault of Joey's. As a matter of fact, I probably wouldn't be interviewing him now in a couple of minutes if that'd be a tougher interview, to be quite honest with you. But I have no animosity towards Joey. But I'm okay with how everything worked out, playoff format and everything, because I don't know any better. So I thought that this was a great season. I thought it was a great fucking playoff. I enjoyed every one of the storylines that pissed people off the most too. I enjoyed Harrison Burton making it in, even though he was ranked 137th out of 135. Whatever the fuck it was. The Austin Dillon man, but that's because I'm an unintelligent, uneducated, with no historical background with this. So I'm not with you guys. I'm not throwing them under the fucking bus because I haven't seen anything better, and I thoroughly enjoyed the season. So that's the only nuance that I'm gonna say about that, Quiggs, because I don't have a fucking wood to chop. But go ahead there, Moonhead, and keep going with your fucking rant.
I do believe Joey deserved it. Now, I do think he's going a little hard defending it because 10 years of this format and he's won 3 of them. So, of course, he's going to love it. Yep. But I don't hold it against him one bit. To me, it seems when your entire fan base is going into the offseason not looking forward to the next season, but instead screaming about how undeserving your champion is, that's a bad look for the sport overall. And then I feel like the attitude towards those feelings from some of the higher ups at NASCAR that were shared this weekend, almost discrediting those opinions, is really, really not a good look. So I think just from that standpoint, the Xfinity race was great. The Xfinity championship was great. Truck race was kind of a snoozer, but honestly, with how last year's went, they needed that. They needed somebody to just go out there and dominate and win with no shenanigans. But the Cup race, which I feel like could have been a very big deal, just flopped on all fronts.
What would have worked for you? What would it have been in this playoff situation with that Final Four? What would have been, Moonhead, be like, I'm okay going into next year?
I honestly don't know. The format,
there was nothing that could have salvaged it.
Maybe a different racetrack if the race was really good and produced one of those like crazy moments that they're chasing with the format, maybe. But I'm just over it. I watched a good 14 years of NASCAR without a playoff format. Watched several years with the chase, and then I've had this for the last 10 years. And it was cool the first year, maybe the second year, but on year 10, it's starting to get goofy. And it just, every year, it feels like a champion just, there's always some sort of, we never go into the off season happy. We never go into thinking about, damn, what a incredible accomplishment. That guy just won a Cup championship. He's worked his whole life for this. It's, God damn it, that race fucking sucked, and this guy don't deserve the championship. And I feel like it's not just me saying that. There's so many people saying it. Like, something needs to change. Whether it's true or not, we may all be wrong. But at the end of the day, if your entire fan base is turning on the biggest storyline of your entire season, which is the championship, I think it's time to look at it.
Yeah, I would agree with Moonhead. I mean, I'm somewhere in the middle. I mean, obviously, Large and I, new NASCAR fans, this playoff format is all we know. But at the same time, I'm not going to be as quick as Moonhead said that the NASCAR brass were in just writing off, people's criticism of this. I do think, if you're going to go a season long where every single race matters, there's something and then to get to this race, you finally come to the championship, and it's pretty much like what the sports books, what DraftKings predicted. Like, everything, the finishing order down to the finishing order was predictable. And it's like, I don't know, maybe you make the playoffs, maybe you make the final round, the championship, for a 2-3 week thing. Maybe you make it a different track. Maybe you end the season at Miami, like that race we saw there that was fantastic. But I'm somewhere in the middle, neutral. like it seemed like there wasn't a big payoff this season. Despite that, and I don't mean to take that away from Joey Logano, who we're lucky to have here in a few minutes, but I kind of agree with Moonhead, and it feels like my NASCAR fixation wasn't really fulfilled with that result. And
Was it last year?
And I can't really put my finger on. Yeah, I mean, I would say more so. I would say more. Maybe it was because Blaney won his first championship and kind of emerged as a star in the sport. Mm-hmm. I don't mean to discredit Joey, and if anything, me saying this as being his third trophy is a testament to the kind of driver he is. But I think in terms of the potential storylines, it could have been a lot. I had my higher expectations. That's all. Well, and I do think, and to Moonhead's point, sure, it's easy to say, the Twitter audience is loud and, people are upset, and there's truth to that. And usually I'm not going to knock NASCAR for discrediting it, because I've long said numerous times on the show, this is one of the sports where the fans feel most passionate about and, complain more than other sports that I've followed in the past. However, when you have drivers like Mark Martin, and I don't mean to throw him under the bus, but I just did, so sorry, Mark, but like him liking tweets of people being critical of this playoff format, you have to take a step back and be like, you know what, maybe there is some credence, maybe there is some, stuff to some weight to this argument. And I can't sit here and agree wholeheartedly, because I don't have a better alternative. I don't know what would be a better solution, a better way to name a champion. But I do agree with Moonhead in the sense that we should at least explore and start the conversation and not just write it off this close. Also, it's been, he said, 10 years now. So at some point, what do we evolve and move into the future with something new or more dynamic? I think we should at least entertain it and not just quickly close the book on what was the 2024 season. One of our best, by the way, which Moonhead and I have long been beating the drum on.
I do want to say, too, they did say in that state of the sport or whatever, it seemed like they were open to maybe they didn't want to ditch the whole playoff format, but it did seem like maybe a format change was something that they, whether they want to admit or not, they could look at. And I think last week I said I like the old 10 race chase or something like that. So I don't want anybody to think I'm team just no playoffs, no chase, full season championship, because I think more often than not that would be boring. Like, we do need these late season moments, but I mean, God forbid the damaged vehicle policy. If Ty Gibbs would have wrecked further up towards the front and all four of them got involved and they're all out because of the damaged vehicle policy, or three of them are out and somebody wins because, guys didn't get their toe links fixed in time, or if the idiot in the pace car would have hit another car or caused a stack up and we had championship guys with damage, like that shouldn't happen. And a one race deciding championship deal is sooner than later. I mean, y'all think Twitter's bad now. Think about if one of those scenarios happen. And we're not far from that. At one of these years, something really, really, really stupid is going to happen. Oh, yeah. And I think they need to save this ship before it sinks.
What could have happened in this current format that would have been agreeable? So Phoenix is where it's going to be. What happened this year? And the way that it happened and went down to the final race, where would NASCAR fans have been happy with this playoff? Is it Harrison Burton doesn't win and doesn't get in? Austin Dillon doesn't do his thing? Alex Bowman doesn't get flagged for being 18 pounds at least underweight? And Kyle Larson makes it into the Final Four? Like, what? Is there a way that you thought that this system could have worked in your favor? And there were a lot of X factors, as there should be in a sport like this. This sport has more fucking moving parts, literally, than just about any other sport in the world. Is there a way that this could have worked out? Or do you think that you and Spider and Quiggs and everybody on Twitter wouldn't have been happy with any fucking result from this year?
I think people would be mad regardless because they're NASCAR fans. So that is definitely true that they complain the most. But I think going back to that graph that we looked at last week that dude made when Denny replied to him, I think if it's a Final Four that has Denny, Larson, Seabell, and Reddick, I don't think it's going to get this hate, just because it's a lot easier to back that Final Four up. Any of those four as a champion, you could pull the stat sheet and be like, all right, that guy had a hell of a damn year all the way through, or for the most part, and statistically should have been the champion. I mean, I think Christopher Bell, who didn't have a great year overall, on the year-long points, somebody did those on Twitter. I think he ended up winning by like 5 points with the run he went on at the end. So I think if one of those four made it, or all four of those guys were the final four, I don't think people are complaining as much. And I think this year really was one of those years where, I mean, the final four was just kind of questionable across the board. And then especially Joey, statistically, not anything he did, not his fault at all. They executed, like I said, and did what they needed to do. But from a statistical standpoint, I feel like it's wild in NASCAR. No, it's not wild in other sports, but it's wild in NASCAR for the 14th best team, or whatever, 12th or 13th or 14th, whatever he was, best team statistically to leave the championship.
Yeah.
Or to leave the champion, I guess.
That kind of what you were saying at the end right there, where you're like, it's like motorsports, it's different.
Mm-hmm.
And there's I guess I don't even fully know where I stand, because there's like the entertainment factor and the fairness factor, and the fairest way to do it would be season long, no playoffs, whoever the best driver, but also you could be 5 races left in the season, you know who's going to win it. But like, if you compare it to March Madness, which people love, and people love when somebody like a Joey Logano 14th seed makes a run, like, why do people hate it so much in NASCAR? Like,
I think people are upset, Large or Quiggs, because, and I don't mean this disrespectfully to Joey Logano, but like, usually those seeds make a run, sure, and they might make the final four, but they don't end up cutting down the nets. So have a driver that finished 17.1 average finish this year across 36 races be crowned your champion, I think is definitely, worthy of a bigger discussion.
Yeah, and I agree the format is probably fucked up, but like, why? Like, why can't Joey win it? Why can't Joey be the one that gets hot and
NASCAR fans give up on the other one? Why can't they come to grips with the fact that Joey Logano is the best driver in Cup Series right now because he's so good in the... He's not the best pure driver at all, right? I would bet money on Kyle Larson in a go-kart race right now over Joey. Anything that Kyle Larson sits in, I'd take him over Logano. But Joey Logano is a fucking genius, because this is what's been going for a decade, and he's figured it. Penske in general. Why isn't anybody else becoming a fucking genius? Are they that stupid that they can't figure out what Joey and Penske and Blaney have figured out? Like, to me, that's like, people are saying how Kyle Larson deserved to be in the championship 4 and may deserve to be the champion and stuff. I disagree. Kyle Larson does not know how to fucking race in the Cup Series because he can't get it done in the fucking playoffs. That's not a dig on him, again, infinitely, but this is the fucking format that we have. And Joey Logano does it better than anybody else. And man, I think that should be shouted from the fucking mountaintops, because a lot more is, I don't mean any disrespect towards Joey, but it's not a real championship. I'm telling people the exact opposite. Everybody who's fucking complaining, get better. Get fucking better at being playoff drivers, because that's the fucking thing that you're driving in. Like, I don't give a shit if you had a very good season. I don't give a shit if you don't say, well, the Giants, when they beat the Patriots that year, they only met the Patriots in the playoffs. These guys race against the same 37 people all fucking year. I get all that shit. Get fucking better. Get fucking better at the playoffs, or shut the fuck up. That's
I'm with
it.
you, Large.
Win all 7 races. Nobody has a problem with Allgaier winning only 2 races and fucking Austin Hill winning 4. Like, nobody has a fucking problem with that for some reason, because the Joey thing is a bigger fucking headline. Get better or shut the fuck up. That's how I feel about it, and maybe I'm just crazy. And that's me telling you to shut the fuck up. I don't mean that personally, Moonhead, because you can come back to me and be like, the reason you're saying that, Large, is because you don't know any better. You're stupid. You weren't around when fucking these guys were dominating the sport, and that's where it was the fucking heyday, and we'll never get that fucking heyday back. And perhaps you're right, too. So I'm not coming at you guys. I'm just saying that's my perspective.
I might have to take a page out of your book and
Please.
be like, when you were like, you know what, someone said something smart, I'm going to retract my position. I'm back to being on the fence.
Fuck yeah, you're on the fence.
I'm not going to pick
I got him
one.
on the fence.
I'm not picking one side. I'm right down the middle. I don't know. Someone smarter than
Can
me.
we agree that Moonhead's a jerk off?
No,
No,
I mean,
asshole.
And
It's
I
bad.
totally am. I am an asshole and I complain a lot, and that's why I'm a NASCAR fan. But
Yeah.
and you're not wrong. Like I agree wholeheartedly with you that if it's not going to change, people need to figure out how to get better, and we shouldn't hold it against Joey and
Right.
Penske for being
Yeah.
good at it. I 100% agree with that. I guess my thing is I see a sport that is way more competitive than it was when some of these guys were dominating it. And I would like, and I know people race towards the format and they race according to the format. And I'm sure if we change the format, people would race differently. But there are so many cars that show up now and can win. And that has not always been the case. I mean, every weekend, I feel like there's probably 10 to 12, sometimes even closer to 15 cars who, if certain things happen and go their way, they were going to have a chance to win. And I think having a format that doesn't come down to one race or doesn't come down to even 3 races at a time could almost be more exciting than what we see with this format, because we're going to have those storylines where we can watch a guy take 15 points at a time off of somebody's lead, instead of, oh, if this guy who's 100 points out of the next round of playoffs stays out on old tires at this track and is a roadblock and wins the race, he is going to advance. And maybe it's just because I've watched it longer and I remember how the format was and some of the excitement it produced on its own organically. Maybe that's why I feel that way. But
You're in the majority. You're in the majority.
No,
I'm the Kamala voter here.
I agree. Like I said, with your point on them executing on the format, but also when people compare it to other sports, like Quigs with the March Madness, I think a lot of it is when that happens, it's almost like a David versus Goliath story. Whereas this was Joey Logano just playing the system. And I don't know. I feel like that, to me, doesn't have that underdog feel. That just feels like somebody coming in and stealing a championship.
But he's not card counting.
No.
He's not deflating balls. I mean, he did have the illegal glove. I know he ran the first race this year with basically a first baseman's mitt on, but he's not cheating, right? Joey shows up with a chessboard in the last 10 races of the year, and everybody else still is using the checkerboard they used for the fucking 28 races before that. And that's on them. Kyle Larson should be more concerned on how to beat Joey Logano in the last 10 races than he is on winning a fucking IndyCar race. That's what I'm saying. And maybe show up for fucking work. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm still not over that whole thing. So, I don't think that has... And I'm willing. Thank you to everyone who sent in all those DMs on exactly how they would tweak the system. I tried to read through a lot. Honestly, like some guys like, well, the most wins, because when Harvick got shut out, having 10 wins that one season and get shut out of the championship 4, I can understand people saying that's a travesty. So maybe give a slot in the final 4 for the guy who has the most wins.
No.
Does that take it up? No? Okay, go ahead.
Why does NASCAR, out of all sports on earth, have to be fair? Like it going back to March Madness, like it sounds like the way people are complaining, they want everything to be the 1 seed to the end. Like whoever is the high seed had the best year wins and goes to the end and is the final 4. It's just not how it works. And not that Logano is an underdog, but it's like, and Burton, like that would be like, you don't want UNC Wilmington who wins their conference. That's just the system that is set up, and you have to win. And it's like, it's not fair. Like, why does it have to be fair?
Well,
from it's set up. It's not that there's a.
I think it used to be fair. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the whole thing. Like, they're saying that the way that it was with the points, and I know we say the words recency bias a lot. I'm sure you sat through a lot of seasons where the last 3 races meant nothing, right? And that's not compelling NASCAR to me. So I don't want to be put in that situation, even though it might have been awesome at the time. And you're like, yeah, give up the last 3 seasons. We had 35 great fucking weeks, and we watched this guy just dominate.
I also, like I said, that was a different era. There were way less competitive cars, in my opinion. I think now, it would be, if somebody runs away with a championship in the Cup Series in today's climate, they earned it. Somehow they had the best NASCAR season ever if they win it with more than a race left, in my opinion. And last thing I'll say about this format, Joey Logano would not even be a 3-time Cup champion if Alex Bowman didn't get busted at the Roval.
Thank you, Moonhead.
And
I said that a couple weeks ago.
To me, that alone is goofy. The fact that a guy gets put in because Alex Bowman had whatever happened to his car, whatever mysterious circumstances those were, and now Joey Logano is a champion because of that moment right there. And to me, I think there's got to be a better way. It needs to be a balance. I'm not calling for the full season because, yes, that could get boring if someone were to run away with it. But there's got to be a better way than this that could combine some of the great aspects and Game 7 moments that we've come to love from a playoff format, but also appear a little bit more organic and legitimate to your diehard racing purist fan.
Squigs, you were saying it doesn't need to be fair, right? Before I rudely interrupted you. It doesn't need to be perfect. Wait.
Fair is probably the wrong word, but I meant more like...
I agree. Sorry.
If, like NC State this year went to the Final Four.
Oh, here we go.
They were not the 4th best team in college basketball. But that doesn't mean that they don't deserve to be there or it should have been somebody else. Like, they played the games, they won the games, they got through based on the system, and yeah, like maybe Duke should have been there, maybe whoever. But the system, which I'm not even a fan of the actual format. Like, I think the format could be better, isn't necessarily good the way it is. But the format is what it is, and it's been that way for 10 years. And it people have always complained about it. But there's a little bit of like a feeling where people are acting like this is the first year that this playoff format has ever been used, and like it's because Joey won it. I don't think there's nearly as much like controversy if Byron wins that race. People will be like, Byron had a really good season. Like it's fine. We'll put off our complaint. Yeah, but I think Logano was the one person that could have won that would spark the most controversy and had the worst resume for the season. But he won it. Like he got in. Like
that's the most important thing that we keep going back to. And Joey, that was one of the first things Joey said in his post-race interview was like, feel any type of way you want. All the drivers knew the rules. This has been the existing playoff system. I went out there and won the race. Like to your point, Large, get better. You all knew how this was going to work. Sorry, I did it better than you. And that part of me is like the part that is refraining from me going full Moonhead mode, Mark Martin mode, and just getting upset because really Joey just did what he had to do and now is just getting flack for it.
If Twitter existed back when it was a point system, do you think people would have been that vocal about, another last three races of the season don't mean anything? NASCAR, do something about this. It's all fucked up. Like, you think that was? Because there's only so many letters to the editor NASCAR fans were writing in 25 years ago. You know what I'm saying? Are we living in a situation now where we've given a voice to so many NASCAR fans, so many people in general, people who don't deserve to have their fucking voice heard sometimes too. I just said it, but that doesn't have anything to do with NASCAR people. But like everyone has the voice now. Is it easier to be critical? Were there critics of that caused the playoff system to be implemented 10 years ago? Like did NASCAR say, we had this really good point system. Let's go to a chase, though, to see how that is. You know what? This chase thing is working out perfectly. Let's fuck that up and go to a playoff system.
Well,
you know what I mean?
I know what happened.
Go.
Matt Kenseth won like one race in 2003, won a championship. Everybody lost their shit. So then they do the chase format, and then Jimmy Johnson won 5 in a row of those, and everybody lost their shit. So then they gave us this. And now Joey Logano has won 3 of these, and everybody's losing their shit. So
there's
the writing
no
is
winning.
on the raw.
That's perfect.
They just need to just change it up every like 5-6 years without anyone asking for it, just to prevent that people.
Do you think they're going to change it this year? Do you think they are going to do the tweaks that I know there's going to be other tweaks that they've made actually during the season too, right? The damaged vehicle policy is one of them. Manipulation of race. I'm sure they're going to go. They've defined riding the wall, that type of thing. So there have been tweaks made as of late.
I personally don't think it will get tweaked. Be done.
I'm surprised how NASCAR's rule book has been written in pencil since we started covering this.
You're right about that, but I think to Moonhead's point that he raised earlier is from some of the tweets I saw people replying to were like top NASCAR, people kind of saying what a success the season was, only to be met with, mean and upset replies. So I don't know.
I wonder if they just had like an election. Or a vote.
They should do a NASCAR election.
I'll run for president.
Who wants more horsepower? Raise their hand.
A former driver.
All these people want more. Boom, more horsepower. Who wants more tire fall off? Raise their hand. Boom, more tire fall off. Who wants, maybe if they did it like that,
Imagine
and they led by committee.
You have Kevin Harvick in there negotiating on behalf of all Martin Truex, right. a committee of all of them. Dale Jr. I don't know.
And then, but I don't know if there's an answer to this, and that's what's scary. I don't know if any tweak that we're going to make is going to make a perfect season with the amount of voice that NASCAR does give its fans, its former drivers, and all that kind of bullshit. So that's why I'm sort of, I don't know, happy with what I have right now because I had a really good season.
Yeah.
And this is a long fucking season. Yeah. Byron told me that last year. I was like, wow, I never saw a professional athlete, say their season was too long. William Byron had said, you'll see, Large, once you sort of get to the end of the summer, season starts to drag on a bit. And then this is that.
You know what I think is even more a testament of how long the season is how short the off season is.
Yes.
Like we're going to stop doing this pod and it's going to feel like, a week went by before we're back in the studio for the Daytona 500. So, I don't know.
I was thinking about that today.
We appreciate everyone who listened. Make sure you guys are subscribed for next year's.
I was just thinking about how close we were to football season ending. I was like, because I just go, like, I'm always titling my episodes, and I'm like, oh, we're on week 11 of the NFL. Like, we're getting close to being done. And then I was like, oh, Rubbin's about to be over. It'll be a little bit less work. And then I'm like, I'm talking about how close the end of the NFL season is, and NASCAR starts like before that even ends.
It's insane.
So can we all agree then that I don't even know what we can all agree on. Like before Joey comes in, obviously Joey has answered the questions already. Joey's answered the questions for people who are disappointed with the current thing, and he's just said this is the thing that we put in front of us, and this is how that I'm performing to it, and I admire that. But I don't know. So do we think that any changes will be made to the playoff format next year? Definitively. Do you think any, even if it's a small tweak, do you think we'll have any changes to the format? I'm going to ask you first. Yes or no?
I don't know.
Do you think any changes will be made to the playoff format next year, Quicks?
No.
Moonhead, do you think they're going to give it any kind of tweaks? Give you guys any of the voices, the millions of voices that are thrown at them? You think they'll do something to prevent some of their disappointments?
I think they'll do nothing major, but they'll try something. I'm convinced they have to. They'll try some sort of something. So I don't know what, but
I know we're kind of trying to wrap this up, this point. But what is the major point of contention with the current format? Like if you had to point to one aspect of it, is it that the final race is one race to decide it all? Like, is that's your biggest gripe?
That's my biggest. I don't like the rounds in general. Yeah. Especially how short they are. I could even see if they did 16 drivers and at race 5 of the 10 races they cut those drivers in half, and then it was
like
8
that
at the end of the
where
year.
You just get rid of the 12 thing and give drivers more opportunity. I like that.
I think something like that would honestly probably be what I'd want, and then maybe make it guarantee a certain number of points entries as well. So maybe drivers in 30th in points winning Daytona or something doesn't knock a guy like Bubba or somebody out who was running pretty good. So those would be my that would be my idea.
But
something along those lines.
For the championship round, 4 guys left. what, like, do you think you do best
Get it
like,
out of
3
Vegas.
races?
I think that
you
would be
do-
the most welcome addition. If I were to change one thing, I would make it the championship round 3 races.
Yeah. That's the
3
quickest.
different courses.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think at least, I mean, that's an easy enough change, and I think that gets the fucking pitchforks down.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's my take, at least.
Yeah.
Was it raining in
I don't know.
Miami this weekend? I'm trying to think. When I watched the weather and stuff out in Phoenix, it was gorgeous out. Packed stands. I'd heard that the stands were very somber leaving. I gotten that from like multiple sources on social media. Like people were kind of left nonplussed by the whole thing, which sort of was Moonhead's point. So there was something broken, and maybe it was with the quality of the racing, and there could be other tracks, but you're also November 9th or whatever the fuck it was, and you're in the desert, right? Like that guarantees you're not going to be in Hurricane Alley.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or any kind of, because nothing would be worse than having rain delays and having to go over till Monday for a championship race too. So I don't know exactly how to fix it. I know there's one person that if you were to ask what they should do to the playoff system, he would say absolutely nothing, and that's Joey Logano. We're about to go 3 wide with Joey Logano. But before we do that, I just want to remind you, as Quiggs had said, the 2025 season is right around the corner, and the adrenaline of the Daytona 500 is something you have to experience in person. There's nothing like witnessing the stars of NASCAR battle for position going 200 miles an hour on this 2.5-mile speedway. 40 drivers will compete amongst the likes of Joey Logano, Harrison Burton, I'm just fucking with you. I don't even know if Denny Hamlin's going to be there, but everyone should be there, and they're going to try to make their mark to start a historic NASCAR season. You don't want to miss this once-in-a-lifetime sporting event. We talk a lot about how much we love Talladega. It's the most Southern I've ever felt. But in all honesty, Daytona is my favorite for some reason. Purchase your tickets today for the 2025 Daytona 500 at Daytona500.com. Myself and Spider will be there with a posse of people, including some hardcore gamblers, because I think that's what we're going to be screwing around with next year on Daytona 500 weekend, gambling responsibly with DraftKings. With that, let's go to the 2024 NASCAR Cup Series champion, Joey Logano. So as promised, we're sitting here with NASCAR Cup Series champion for the 2024 season with a future Hall of Famer. Can I say that out loud? I can, right?
Yeah.
Are you comfortable when somebody refers to you as a future Hall of Famer, Joey Logano?
I'm okay. I mean, it sounds cool.
It sounds very cool.
It sounds really cool. I can't say I think about it much because I'm still going, right? I'm still competing, but it sounds cool. I like to think that I can make it someday.
Yeah.
We'll stick with 3-time for now.
But he's going to moonwalk in. 3-time.
3-time is a sweet nickname that you just picked up on Sunday. I think that's pretty good. I was just asking Joey how that compares to sliced bread. You said you've been called a lot of things.
I've been called a lot.
Yeah.
Most of them not nice, so I'm going to take this
Oh,
one
yeah.
for sure.
I'm going to go first. What is it about Penske in general and you in particular that allows you guys to make the NASCAR playoff system your absolute bitch? Honest to God, like you, and we've spoke about it. I know you've talked about it ad nauseum. I just yelled about it on the podcast. Complain about it all you want, but maybe get better at it. That's what I tell people who complain about this thing, because you are the best in the world at it consistently, and Penske is the best company to be driving for. What makes you guys different that other guys can't do it, or at least they haven't been able to in the last 3 years?
Well, first off, I agree with you, and thank you very much.
You bet.
But, I it's not cars, right? It's not the parts and pieces of the cars. They're all the same, right? So there's not like you're gaining an advantage there. It's people, obviously. Right? It's the people that put the cars together. It's the little details that matter. It's the pressure of the playoffs. I think that's maybe the biggest thing. And I think Team Penske's used to having pressure on them. I think it's like they're comfortable with pressure. Roger Penske does that. He doesn't say that, but you know where you're working. Right. When you walk into Team Penske, you see there's a 47th championship they've won in motorsports. That's a lot. Right? He's been doing this for a long time. The guy wins. He expects you to win, or you're not going to be there very long. Right? Like So there's a lot of pressure that comes along with just that being alone. And then so I think we're used to that piece of it. And then the playoffs start, and every week that kind of ratchets up another level. And I think some people love that, and it makes them better. And some people, it makes you fall apart. And you see that in sports in general when the playoffs start. Teams change. People change. People react differently. It's a lot. To be honest with you, it's not comfortable, right? It's not fun to have all that pressure on you. But, boy, is it rewarding. Like the goal at the end, like that prize at the end is awesome.
I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, about a month ago, that the Las Vegas race, the first in the round of 8, is the second most important race of the season, because going from 8 to 4 is a Sophie's choice, because that's where the talent is so thick. So the person who wins that race is on easy street and you were, right? When in Las Vegas, you were the cat that swallowed the goddamn canary when you showed up to the 2 races afterwards, and then obviously it was game face going into Phoenix. Is that true? I mean, do you feel that I've spoke to you before and said, what's the best track for Joey Logano? And you told me, Large, I expect to win every week. Okay? Yeah. That's a quote from you, and I think that's cool. But do you think that this playoffs would have went incrementally different if you didn't get that monkey off your back in the round of 8, especially where you were in the standings at the time?
Yes. Is the answer yes. Would we have made the championship 4 if we didn't win Vegas? It's hard to say because the effort that went into Miami and Martinsville was 0. Literally, we had very few conversations about it. It was just, I don't know, throw that setup in it. Yeah, we'll go run it. Because our focus was on Phoenix. Because that was the advantage we earned. So you look at our performance in those 2 racetracks, it wasn't anything special, that's for sure. We just kind of went through the motions. We weren't worried about momentum. The momentum was already there by locking in.
Right.
And so if we can go out and take that advantage from Vegas of locking in and focus 2 weeks sooner and also have our batteries recharged, right? You think about that. The other 7 cars that were still trying to lock their way in, they got their tongues hanging out. It's all they got. While we're just working on one car, we're massaging one car, we're going through one setup. We spent 4 hours at the simulator doing nothing but pit road runs. Wow. Just rolling pit road, trying to maximize that. No one has time to do that. If you lock your way in at Martinsville, you have 2 days before your car leaves, and the driver has to do all this extra media stuff, go out there early. All this, you can't catch me. Right. That's the difference. It doesn't mean it's a guarantee you're going to go win the championship, but it sure as hell gives you an advantage when you get there because those details we already did. They can't even have the time to do it. It's not possible to catch us.
What do you say to those that have been critical of the playoff format following your win? Do you think it's more a testament to the Cinderella story and the momentum and the advantage you gained by your early win as you could just focus for the championship? Or do you hear the concerns of people saying, every race should count? Well,
every race does count.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, it pisses me off.
Yeah.
This whole thing makes me so mad because it's not new.
Right.
We're 11 years into this. Yeah. And the first year, it was amazing.
Right.
Right? Does anyone remember the first year Ryan Newman almost won the championship? We've been the same scenario. Right? He finished second. You guys would have said the same thing then. But so 11 years, everyone says how great this is, how they like it. And then a couple guys feel like they should have made it. They don't. They mouth off a little bit. Some fans get behind it. Some media members get behind it. They keep going. They take it and, oh my gosh, the system's broken. Just like that. Do we remember what it used to be like? Like when people talk about the good old days.
It. Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't that good. They changed it.
Yeah. You know what the best times are? Right now. Yeah. Right now. Like we talk about the good old days, even in society, all the time. Like wherever we're doing, oh, the good old days. Before this, before that. Remember how hard it was just to get a hold of somebody when you didn't have cell phones? Yeah. Now you just text like it's no. Remember you had to do the T9 text. You know what I mean? That was pretty easy to do it on your phone, isn't it? Yeah. Well, you talk about the good old days. It's pretty badass right now.
Joey, so, I'm 52 years old. I mean, I know a lot more than fucking those old texts.
So you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I guess it's like when I hear that, it's frustrating because we used to crown a champion with 3 races to go.
Yeah.
Who's gonna watch the rest of them?
Right.
And at that point, they're 200 points ahead.
Right. I guess I didn't
every
mean
race doesn't count.
I didn't mean every race doesn't count.
No,
but
I know you just said it kind of as a not sequitur, but I think it's one of those things that truly did knock out races that didn't fucking count.
And you telling me that if you go back to the Roval, right, where if the 48 made it through, and you got Tyler Reddick there, you got Kyle Larson, and Tyler made it on drivers but not on owners, you telling me that every race doesn't count? He would have, you know what I mean? Like, they make it by 1 or 2 points. That's a stage win in the regular season, right? 1 point, 5 points. You're telling me that every race doesn't count. All of it matters, but you can still overcome a lot. And it's like that in any sport that you watch, right? You can have a great regular season. It seeds you better in the playoffs, but it doesn't mean you can go in cruise control and expect to be in the finals. Yeah. You can't do it. So you still have to perform when it matters. They earn an advantage. They get the advantage. And if you don't perform in the playoffs, then, oh, well, you had the advantage. Yeah. That's my point.
I don't know. Like, to me, you have 3 of these now. This is your 3rd. Do you still really care what those people have to say? Or
no.
Like, I respect in the first interview I heard that you gave, you said all the drivers knew the rules going into this. I don't know why everyone's up in arms now, and I think that was kind of like very good microcosm of this whole discussion.
Shut up and get better.
Yeah, that's what Large said.
Yeah. Listen, you're in a safe space now because Spider and I are relatively new to NASCAR, and we've fallen in love with it. But this is what we know. I had a great time this season. There was enough stuff that happened this season that made it a banner season for me. There was, like even little things off the side. I didn't have Ricky punching Kyle Busch on my bingo card. Like, there was so many things that happened in and out of the season. You with the funky glove, right? That whole thing, like all the shit that had gone on. So you're in a safe space here because we had such a good time with it. I don't think anybody knows how to fix it. And I also think you're talking about rotary phones and shit. Back in the day, if social media was around, when Kenseth, they would have been, abolishing that too. It's just everyone has a voice, and I think it makes it a lot worse. I hate this day and age.
It's just easier for people to complain than give compliments.
Yes.
It's the world we live in, unfortunately. That's what it is. Yeah. And you just have to look past a lot of that. And the haters are louder. They just are, right? Like, when people are happy, they just kind of go on with their life. Like, man, it was a good race. Move on.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know.
So in that breath, you're 3rd now, 3 in a row for Team Penske. What is it about Team Penske that just has a knack for showing up in the playoffs or turning it on late season? Because hand up, and I got to be honest, Large and I have sat here the first couple weeks of this pod and we're like, oh my God, is Ford going to win? When's it coming? When's it coming?
The dark horse is a bust.
The last couple years at the end of the season, we sit here and talk about the Ford driver that ended up winning the championship. Is there like a switch?
It can't be a coincidence anymore, right?
Crazy.
Like, and it can't be luck anymore either.
How would you explain that? It just is crazy.
It's easy for a team in those scenarios when we fired off in the beginning of this year and the speed wasn't there and we were getting caught up in a lot of crap. Like, when you're not fast, you get in the middle of the pack, then you get caught up in stuff more often. Makes you not up front. It'd have been easy for our team to just say, it's a rebuilding year, right? That's what losers say, right? That's kind of like it's just not our year. We're going to focus on next year and we'll call it a rebuilding year. No, we still see there's an opportunity. There's still a path to get to the finals if we can turn the ship around. And for us, I feel like the turning point is we had a tire test at North Wilkesboro. We get no test pretty much a year. We had one, and we learned a lot that day. Those 2 days, we made hundreds of laps, and those gains that we found gave us the speed we needed. We won the All-Star race because you're a little momentum, a little confidence, which is good. A lot of cash.
Do you think that All-Star win happens without the tire test, or how significant?
Oh, I absolutely don't think it does.
Yeah,
because we were a lot different than where we unloaded at the test compared to where we unloaded for the race. Test. Yeah.
Incredible.
It's a lot more than that because I think that's what propelled us all the way through, because I know Phoenix is a lot different than North Wilkesboro, but a lot of the things we learned there were applied. So it's because you don't have the opportunity to learn much, those moments mean so much now. That was a turning point for us.
You had mentioned Mr. Penske, the captain. There was, what is it, Bronx Tale, I think, where he says to him, would you rather be feared or loved? Are you afraid of him? Do you love the guy? Like, where is he as far as being, like, sometimes we spent some time with Coach Gibbs. Everyone's kind of cut from the same cloth as a NASCAR owner. So what's the type of reverence that you give the boss? You scared shitless of him, Joey?
I was when I first started working there.
Okay.
But I know I've been working there for 13 years now.
True,
like,
huh?
you know all the people there. You know the system. It becomes family when you work. So you guys know. You guys worked here for a long time now, too. You become family with the people you work with. You become like you care about them. They care about you. You trust each other. You're not worried that, around every corner you're about to lose your job and they're talking bad about you behind your back. Like, no, we're a team and we're going to fight together. Roger has never given me the feeling that I know my job's on the line all the time. I know that. But he's never had to say that. He's never made me feel that way.
Wait a sec. Do you race like your job is on the line all
Absolutely.
the time? Okay. So
You
a
better.
3-time Cup Series champion who's been in this game for a long time and has known, we've spoken multiple times that whenever there's a track where there's a question mark about it, we don't know what the tire fall-off is going to be. We don't know. All of a sudden, we got to throw a bet on Joey Logano.
That's right.
I'm not going to talk about betting. Well, we have nothing more to bet on. I got you a plus 1,100, though. So just so you know, I did pretty well with you. But we always say it's Logano because he knows what the fuck he's doing. Like, he's the guy. Are you still that type of guy who's fighting for a job every week? Or is that in your head?
It's in my mind.
It's your head.
I have a long-term contract
Okay,
that lets me race for a long time,
Good.
which is great. But I lived it. I got fired. Like,
Yeah.
I lost my job, and that, like, it sits in me. I will never forget it, and it's really a motivator to me, and not ever wanting to have that feeling again. Right? Like, it's the worst. Right? Like, I don't know if you guys ever went through something like that before. It's the worst.
Yeah.
And you feel this big, and you never want that again. And so I always race like that. I've always thought that you're only as good as your last race. Thank God our last race was really good.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
But the way competition changes, it's evolved so much. I thought this years ago is that, man, I said when Kenseth retires and Dale Jr. and Jeff Gordon and all the guys that were winning at the time, dude, I am going to be the man. Yeah. I thought I am going to win because all the new guys coming in, they weren't that good. And then, like, the more they do it, now, like, you look at the championship 4 now, and I'm like, jeez, like, William Byron, Tyler Reddick, Ryan Blaney. When they first came in, I thought, well, I'm going to wax their butt forever, you know? And now I'm like, dude, these kids are freaking good. And I call them kids. They're like a couple years younger than me. They're not that much younger than me. But they got really good because competition just always evolves. Everybody gets better every year. As they do it, there's something different. They keep moving on. You can't sit still and expect to be the best. So racing for all the way back to racing for your job.
Right.
That's kind of what I mean by it, is that it just doesn't, what you know it works now won't work tomorrow. And so you just got to keep racing like your butt's on the line.
So I know Large asked about kind of having Roger Penske as a boss. I want to know, were there team orders? I know obviously it's kind of interesting dynamic having 2 cars, 2 of the championship 4, which has got to be a good thing obviously for Team Penske. But there's kind of like, I guess my question is, what did you think late in the race when he was coming and it was kind of the race was between you two for the championship? Were you expecting him to maybe move you up the track, or were there team orders that divided against that?
He could have. And I believe if he got to me in the right place in the corner, he would have laid a bumper to me. But I truly believe he would never wreck me.
Yeah.
On purpose. Right? I mean, accidents happen. I get it. But, I mean, we raced side by side earlier in the race.
Yeah.
And I think the number one thing to remember out of all of it while we were racing, and Blaine and I talked about it a very short conversation. We didn't have to talk about it much because we already knew. One of us better win the race. Like, one of us better win this championship. If we're going to go head-to-head, and we were going to, as I knew we were, because I felt like the 12 was going to be very, very strong and the hardest car to beat there. And he was. We just couldn't take each other out. Because what happens is, if I lived this before, it was Daytona 500 a few years ago, and when you get back to the shop, not only is everybody just depressed because they didn't win, they also feel like they got to choose a side. We're like, who did the wrong?
Mm-hmm.
Was it Ryan? Was it Joey? Was it Austin? Right? And so when you have that conflict with inside the team, it gets messy really, really quick, and it's really hard to clean that up. That's not a mess you could just get a mop up and clean up in no time. That leaves a scar, and it's hard to recover from that. So we knew that, hey, listen, one of us better win the race. I think we both know a bumper here and there we're going to be okay with. Wrecking each other is not acceptable. And even when we were racing side by side earlier in the race, Coleman, my spotter, is telling me how far back to 24 was. We were pulling away from the 24 racing side by side. I'm like, oh, well, we could keep racing, right? Like, we'll keep racing each other.
Right.
So you just got to be smart in those scenarios. And it's hard to do because you know what's on the line is this trophy, and only one of us is going to get it. But you have to accept that you'd rather finish second to Ryan Blaney than beat him and finish third, right? Like that doesn't do it. So you got to understand who you're racing and why you're doing it. And the people at the shop, the Ford, Roush Yates, Shell, right? Like, it affects way more people than you understand. And I will say my first championship didn't think that way at all. It was about me. And I'd say now the coolest part about winning a championship is seeing everybody else. That is my favorite part, is seeing everybody's pure joy and the amount of work and effort that they put into it, to see them celebrate. And then when we get back and you see their families, and we're going to do a lot of celebrations, that is my favorite part. You can keep the trophy. You can keep all that.
Yeah.
Those pictures and memories is everything.
You had a great quote after the race. You said, I don't know if I'm the best driver, but I got the best team. And then you mentioned that you're going to not even spend the first year with this trophy. You're going to give it to your team and let them take it on a parade wherever it takes it. But how cool is it now with Penske? Obviously, all three cars in victory lane, third straight championship. Does the celebration get bigger? Is this going to be 3x the championship celebration now because it's the third one straight? Like, you guys should just keep going bigger and bigger.
I mean, I said before we got there, we're going to old man them to death, because that's our advantage. We're a bunch of old dudes that race. Like, we've all been doing it a long time. I would say I'm old, but we've been doing it long enough that nobody else around there has done it as long as us. So we don't really party as well as others. It's just not who we are. So we don't do it real big. We're all married with children, all but one person on the team. So everybody's, we got life that goes on, and we do it because we're passionate about it. We do it for the stats together. If we have a feeling of winning, we do it for the money. Let's be real. The money's real. We had a incentive program I put together this year, and it was something just for my team. We call them Daddy Paul bucks, right? For Paul Wolf.
Big Paul's Paul.
Yeah, exactly. You know him. But he's like hitting all these certain stats. If we can hit certain things, there's a big bonus that comes at the end of the year. Well, it was $200,000 in cash if we won the championship. So now I got to figure out where to get the money to start off. But I can't wait to throw the duffel bag on the table and say, "Here you go, boys! Like, figure it out." Like, that's what it's about, doing it together and celebrating that victory together, letting them have the trophy, and enjoy the parts that this is so freaking hard to do.
Yeah.
And we all should enjoy that. I know I'm not doing it on my own. Like, when I said I'm not the best driver out there, I truly believe I'm not. But I play my strengths better than anybody else, and makes us the most well-rounded race team. There's other drivers that are faster, in my opinion. But I think when it comes to the full circle of everything, as a team, we got them.
They weren't faster on Sunday.
They were not.
Bitch.
So
only at times they were, actually.
Yeah.
But we held them off good.
We had
a good restart.
I want to know, I mean, you're a man that has a lot of trophies now, barely enough room in your trophy case for this third one, and maybe that's why you're sharing it with your team so much. But I digress. I guess my question is, what else is there that you want to accomplish in your motorsports career that's been so storied already? And you still sound like a guy that's not going anywhere for a long, long time.
He's 34.
Yeah.
He's 34-year-old guy, so he's not going anywhere.
Right, but on the same breath, you have so much to show for your career. Currently, is there something that you want that's evading you, or I guess it may be other disciplines of racing? We'll see you go race IndyCar for the Penske team, for Team Penske, or
you won't see me do that. No, I love NASCAR racing. I'm a person, like a creature of habit. You know what I mean? Like, I find something I like, and I will do. That's what I'm gonna do, right? Like, my wife, I married her.
Okay.
She's the first girl I dated when I was 16. That was the girl I love. I married her. Right. That's it.
It's a pretty good example.
You go to a restaurant, I find something I like. I am going to eat that same thing every time I go there. I don't need to try anything else.
I hate that.
That's who I am.
Yeah.
I love NASCAR racing. That was my dream. That's what I set on. That's the only thing I want to do. I just want to drive NASCAR, race cars, stock cars. I love it.
So is there a NASCAR trophy that you would like to add to your one more than others? Or
it's just, I want to win the next one.
Yeah,
I just want to win the next one. I've never said, like, gosh, I need to hit a certain amount of wins to feel like an accomplished race car driver, a certain amount of championships. It's just win the next one. Like, it doesn't have to be this elaborate plan of all these things you got to hit. Sometimes it's just better to keep it simple.
Yeah. You mentioned the pit crew has some incentives, so that's why I asked if Joey Logano has any personal career incentives. But I love your answer, and obviously if you're a good driver, you want to win every race, especially the next one.
Absolutely.
As a family guy, 3 kids, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so 2 boys and a girl.
Yep.
Same with me. It seemed like from our view, 30,000 feet, watching that Olympic break this year, the drivers really enjoyed it. Like, I think that that extra week off, or the 2 weeks or whatever, it seemed like it did wonders for everybody. I mentioned it earlier in the show, how William Byron had told us, we've been doing this for 2 years, our first year, Large, wait till you see how long these goddamn seasons are. He's like, once you get it, and I really did feel it in the middle of the summer. Is there something that you would tweak as far as the schedule to give you guys that recharge of the batteries? Would you like to shorten the schedule? I mean, I know that breaks hearts because you have to go to all these tracks, basically keeping these things afloat. But selfishly, February to November, every week, and you're a father of 3, you're going to start missing a shitload of Little League games, a shitload of dance recitals, all that kind of stuff. Where do you sit with that?
That's what makes it hard. That's what makes it really hard to, not only for drivers to want to do this for a long period of time, but crew members. Right? It's hard for people to want to be on the road working on these race cars for that long, because once they have kids, the dynamic changes 100%. There's nothing ever in my life that's changed more than having kids. Yeah. Getting married didn't really change much. Having kids changed it all, and it's changing every day as they get older. To your point, you start missing things. But there's also the thrill that when we won and they were there. Right. Like, there was nothing better than that, because the grind is not just on me. It's on your spouse at home. It's on your kids. They're home alone, right? Like, my wife has to raise my kids alone a lot of times. She has to be a single mom more than you think. And that's freaking hard. Not just for us, but for everyone in the sport. And so when you reach that pinnacle together, I look at them as they're part of my team, right? Like, we do it together. And to walk up after the race, the 5 of us, to get that checkered flag together, it's the coolest. There is no better feeling than that. There is not one. I can't think of one that tops that moment right there. Right. That's why you do it. Just for that 5 seconds, that picture, that memory. That's all I care about.
But you're good, so you get to do that a lot. You know, and I'm seeing more parity in NASCAR this year than in years past. Like, Moonhead had just mentioned how he thinks on any given day, 10 to 15 cars could legitimately be in
100%.
Contention to win, whereas maybe a long time ago you had 5 to 10 cars. And I think I'm being pretty generous with that.
I think even 20 cars could win today.
Right.
Yeah.
But not all of them do, right? And not all of them have 3 of these. You know, not all of them have just about, all these accolades. So don't you think they should go to 28 races? Don't you think there should be a mandatory 2-week break? You can speak about it.
I would like that, but there's so many other things
that go
momentum?
Into that. Is that bad with that?
I think it kills the momentum of the sport, for one. I think that's not real good. I think if you shorten the season, well, you got to justify everybody's salary somehow.
Right.
right? So that's got to go down. Someone's going to make less money. So how, like, right? There's less sponsors. There's less, like, all that, like, comes down. Everything shrinks a little bit.
That's right.
So with anything like that, you got to understand that there's going to be some kind of repercussion on the back end of it. And are you okay trading out some cash for more time, right? It's a trade-off.
So am I hearing you correctly that you'd rather have more money and not mind that your daughter calls you Uncle Joey because you don't show up to any of her
No,
events,
I'm not
and
saying
you're a
that.
terrible
I never
father?
said that at all.
Yeah.
But the balance you
Yeah.
have to figure out how to do the balance.
Yeah.
I feel like I do the balance really well, but it is something that's tough to do. I would love to have more off weekends. I don't know how to do that. I love that we get Easter off next year. I don't think we should race on that day at all. Like, I think it was ridiculous we even thought about doing that. Forget doing it. So I'm glad we've made that change back. The 2 weeks off in the summer while the kids are out of school, it's very valuable. I agree. I also see the other side of it where, hey, the NFL playoffs are coming around not too far. You don't want to be going up against that. You know, so for the health of the sport, there's that piece of it too. It's a challenging spot. There's no doubt it's a challenging spot. I don't have the answer.
So instead of hypothetical rule changes, let's talk about things that are actually changing next year. We're going to Mexico City, Bowman Gray at the Clash. Is there one thing that you're most excited about? And if it were up to you, what's one other change that Joey Logano would make to the schedule?
I'm excited about going up to those tracks. I mean, they're new tracks. They're good for us. So let's bring on the new tracks for 22.
Exactly, yeah.
We love that. So that I think that, and that's good for the sport. Going international is good for the sport. Naturally, I'm a little nervous about it because I don't leave the country, man. I can't.
Yeah,
Whenever I said creature of habit,
yeah.
I love America. I ain't going nowhere.
6 days a week. He's not going to fuck.
I don't need to go anywhere. We have a vacation spot. We go to the same place every time. That's what I love.
Fair enough.
So a little bit of change there. I have to figure that one out. But I guess what I would like to see change would be where the championship race is.
I was going to ask you that, actually.
And I think it should rotate every year. I think it should be like the Super Bowl, and I think the town should bid it out.
That's a great idea.
We've condensed the season so much that the season ends sooner than it used to where we're in New York City right now. It's not snowing. We could race in Loudon, be a little chilly, but you could. You know, like you could go race in a lot of other places for your championship race, and I think when you bring that championship race to a racetrack, it ups the value of everything around
it. Changes everything.
Oh my gosh, it makes the facility way nicer. You know, especially if you make it to where it has to be a certain level of a racetrack. Like, the amenities around it have to be a certain level. Phoenix is beautiful, and it wasn't beautiful before the championship race. Right. Then they built a new garage.
It's like when the Olympics come to town, the city gets built up.
Yeah, all of a sudden the barn gets nice bathrooms.
And I think you do you do all that stuff, and now you have a beautiful facility where fans want to come to, and it's modern.
That's why when we went down to Miami, I was like, this place looks like a fucking La Quinta, right? Like it's got like the snow and whatnot. I was like, this can't host a championship. But I love the racing there.
Yeah.
So and then maybe with the way that they're shifting the schedules, it's going to give them some time to give it a facelift, and who knows what happens.
Right.
But I think if we asked 99 people what they would do to change the, ask 100 people how they would change the playoffs, 99 would have an idea, and you're like, leave it alone, right? Because you're good at it. But is that true, or like as far as the playoff structure?
The playoff structure, I just think everyone has an opinion, right? Like it's like a butthole. Everyone's got one.
They
usually stink.
Yeah.
So I think we got to take a step back and say, is it good? And I'm telling you, I said it post race. When I watch the Xfinity Series, when I watch the Truck Series, the same playoff, the same way we do it, it's freaking awesome.
Right.
I love every second of it, and every race matters and all that. So why do we need to change it?
I would say that you shouldn't, but I would say there has to be something that Joey does want to change about NASCAR.
Yeah, I said that, but we just go to a different race.
But no, I mean, just in general with the racing, like with the horsepower, increased horsepower, more tire, all those things that people complain about. I'm finding that NASCAR fans complain more than just about any other sports fan that I've ever seen in my life. I've been spinning around this, half a century. I've never seen anything like that. out of all those complaints, is there something that you're like, no, they're right, Larch. That's something that does need to be done. We need more horsepower tomorrow.
It would be nice to have more horsepower.
Right.
I think that would be a good thing. We saw tire wear be a good thing.
Yeah.
Right? We saw, I like the option tire. I like it. I think the option tire is pretty cool.
Right.
When we had that. The All-Star race didn't really play out the way we thought, but Richmond sure did. The way the option tire happened there, right? And it opens up some windows. Some could call that gimmicky. Some would say that. Others would say, it's part of the strategy of the race. Do the right thing. Like, stop complaining about it. Figure it out. So, I mean, I can see how that could be a little tricky for some. But I personally kind of think it's cool. I think those type of things are good. There's always going to be aero debates on what puts out the best racing. Drivers will forever say, take downforce off and give us more horsepower. I don't know if everybody's going to think that's better racing. I personally think it is, but others may not.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly wonder, what did the old car look like if we took all the skew out of it? Because we talk about how good the mile-and-a-half racing is with this next-gen car.
Yeah.
Well, to me, all of that is because we took the skew out of it. The cars used to go down the track sideways. The wake would go off the right side of the door, and it would push up the racetrack. So you couldn't move to the right side of somebody because you'd be in the wake. Now the cars are straight. You move to the right side of a car, it's like having clean air. Oh, wow. Like, it opens up the track a lot. If you did that with the old car, with the small tire and a ton of horsepower, is that the best? It makes me wonder. It makes me wonder. It makes me want to pull one out just to see what it'd be like. And also, you do that, you make the cars maybe take a little bit of quarter panel off the back of the car back in the day, so you're not relying on side force as much. Because that's one good thing about the next gen cars. You see how we can ride side by side with each other, and the inside car doesn't spin out anymore. Mm-hmm. But you look at Xfinity and truck, it does. So they're relying on side force. So when you get tight on somebody, they want to spin out. The next gen car doesn't have that anymore. So that's a gain. So I don't know. Those are just my random thoughts. But and they're dreams that will never ever come true because you're not going back. Like you can never go back. But I do think we're at least going in the right direction with the tire. Goodyear's doing a good job with that, and we're open. We're open to change. But every time you change something, it opens the door for more people to give an opinion.
Yeah.
Should you be able to ride the wall?
No, absolutely not.
All right, clear that up.
Speaking of going back, I go back to an episode we did where we had Mark Martin on our episode, and not only did he mention his love for Gucci Mane the rapper, but he also, Large asked him who was the best NASCAR prospect that he's ever seen coming up through the ranks, and his answer was you, Joey Logano. So I want to know from you, Joey, I guess, is there someone that you think is next up or has already arrived that you've seen coming up that you were just astonished by the level of skill they had at a young age?
I mean, there's definitely a couple coming up. Why am I drawing a blank on his name right now? He won Watkins Glen in the Xfinity race.
Connor.
Zillage.
Yeah.
Zillage. That kid's good.
Yeah.
Like, you can see it. And you can tell he gets it, too. Like, he's good in a lot of areas. Obviously, road racing is his bread and butter, but he's able to figure it out pretty close on an oval already. He's not too far off from that. He'll probably clean that up over the next couple of years. Speaks well, clean cut. I'd say he's going to be your next one.
Buy stock now. How about in that same breath? Do you see your own kids? Do they have any interest in driving? Would you allow that? Would you encourage that? Where do you stand on that?
I don't want to push them. If they want to do it, fine.
Yeah.
Cool. If they want to do something else, great. My oldest Hudson probably takes the most interest in driving. Every day is driving something. That kid is me all over again. Like, he gets home from school, it's, let's go ride the quad. Let's go drive the crazy carts. Let's go drive the RC car. Like, he just wants to drive stuff. And I'm like, great, because I want to too. Like, well, let's go together. He's like my little buddy now, so we can go do that stuff. Jameson, my middle child, he's an outdoors kid, but he wants to go search for turtles. He wants to go play, the bugs and all that. Like, that's who he is. And like, he jumps in and drives a little bit, some things, but he's more into just kind of doing his deal. And Amelia's, she's 2, so hard telling, not knowing on that one. We'll see. But She hangs with the boys pretty good. She beats them up, which is great. But yeah, I mean, we're going on a 4-wheeler trip coming up here, and it's fun because there's 30 something of us from Penske going, and everyone brings their kids, and it's a guys trip. And so it's a redneck guys trip in the middle of the woods and go 4-wheeler. Freaking love it. It's the best. And it's fun to do that with your kids. And I got one old enough that we can ride good enough to go with us
Changes
now.
Everything.
But to the point, I don't want to push them to go racing. We did go race a couple times, and I don't want him to show up to the racetrack like he's something he's not. You know, he shows up to the racetrack just like every other kid. When we went there, we had a little outlaw cart. We're going to go up to Millbridge and race up there. I said, we're going on the back of the pickup truck. We're going to have a bag of tools in case the chain comes off or we got to change a gear or something like that. But we're going to bring an air tank and nothing else. He's got a old suit that just the one he wears. He's got the same helmet he wears on his quad. He's going to drive with us. I don't want him showing up like he's some Billy Badass. That's the way I showed up when I first started racing. Like we didn't know what we were doing, and it was frustrating because they introduced him as Joey Logano's kid Hudson. Like, it pissed me right off.
Right.
Because I'm like, gosh, like that is just not. It's not fair to him. Because that's a lot of pressure to put on a 6-year-old, and so I don't want that to turn him off of racing, because he feels like he has to be great right off the bat because his dad's a race car driver. And there's no hiding from that. Right. There's no way you can stop that. But I also don't want to make his head so freaking big that he thinks he could do, like, that he thinks he's already done it before he's done it.
I feel bad
so
for my
tough.
kids being the kids of legends also. You know what I mean? So I
get it. It's a big shooter, Phil.
Yeah. I have a question for you. It's a personal one.
No.
I'm looking for a reason to hate Shane Van Gisbergen. When it was announced, I was like, he's going to come over here. First, he's going to just take over NASCAR. Then he's going to steal our women. I thought it really was like a Red Dawn situation.
Dang accent, right?
And this guy, he's this big, even his dog is sexy. And he seems to do everything. The kicking of the ball into the stadium, into the stands afterwards. I think he broke a woman's nose. I totally made that up. I'm trying to do stuff to. What do you feel like as a guy who's an established NASCAR? I love driving cup cars. And have a guy who's a supercar driver or something come over and kind of do well. How do you feel about Shane and his recent success?
I like it. I'm good with it. I don't like it because I have to race against him.
Exactly, because he's good.
But as somebody looking at the health of the sport and looking bigger picture than just me being selfish, it's good. Right, it makes our sport more global because he's the superhero from Australia coming over here to race, and on road courses, is he great? Oh my gosh, like he's so good, especially at the technical, like real tight. Obviously, Chicago, right? Yeah. That is his wheelhouse, and he shows up and he's great at that. The oval stuff's so different that he has a really long road ahead of him to catch up on that. But he seems like he comes in, he's not cocky or arrogant. To your point, he's super nice
guy.
He's like, to me, it's like Jimmy Johnson, right? Like Jimmy won all the time, and you just wanted to hate him, and then he'd show up and I'm like, of course you're freaking nice too, aren't you? Like, why can't you just be an asshole? Like,
honest to God, I hate it. I was hoping that you said. I was hoping that you knew something. Like I met his dad.
I don't know him that well. He seems nice.
Yeah, I met his dad. We were in the same box with his dad, and they're wonderful people. So I need somebody to tell me he was at a Diddy party or something. I need something to go up. Because if I don't, then I got to buy a hat because the guy is legit. Listen, for people who don't know, Joey has been through a car wash. He wins on Sunday in Phoenix, leaves his family, hops on a jet. He's in New York. He's doing it today, so he's doing all the stuff, top of all that. So to carve out some time to spend with myself and Spider is nothing short of an honor. So we really appreciate it. We appreciate you, and we congratulate you on everything that you've done. Wish you nothing but the most success going forward. This is Joey Logano. He is a future Hall of Famer, and he's a 3-time NASCAR Cup Series champion. Congratulations. All right, guys. So that was it. That was Joey Logano, the NASCAR Cup Series champion of 2024, who's always been extremely gracious with this podcast, even though Barstool hasn't always been extremely gracious with him, right? I'm looking at you, big fat. So that's it for the 2024 season. Spider, is there anything you need to say before we put a fucking tent on this circus?
No, I appreciate everyone who listens to our crazy NASCAR takes week after week and is listening to this right now, made it this far in the episode. Drop a subscribe if you can. We're going to be doing some iRacing content Friday, so a day after you're listening to this, probably. So if you have the iRacing platform, come join us. And, we appreciate everyone's support this whole season, especially Quiggs and Moonhead and Manoli are essential cogs in this machine that put the show on week after week. So I have to say immense appreciation for everyone associated with the show, as well as our audience and our fabulous sponsors. So hopefully we can keep doing more of this into next season.
Should be fun. Can we put out a prediction that the 5 of us will be together at a race at some point next year?
I would
really
love
hinges on one man.
I was gonna say, yeah. I'm the guy that would hold that bet.
I would not take
happen.
that bet. I would not take it. I'm not confident in Quiggs, because especially if
Chicago doesn't count.
It's TBD on Chicago Street Race. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
Well,
maybe
Chicago
we get Quiggs
count,
to Mexico City. Quiggs, maybe.
I guarantee
that
Quiggs
you're
will
not getting me to Mexico
City. There's no fucking way we're getting him to Mexico.
Well,
I've seen him
we'll
in a
get me
I'm
to a
happy
race.
about it. Yeah. Moonhead, a welcome addition this year. I appreciate all of your nuance. I'll call it that. And we look forward to seeing you live at a race, but I appreciate all your help. Manoli, how was your first year with NASCAR?
Absolutely electric experience, to say the least.
And we're going to have a host of people come on board with us next year as far as going to races. I know they've been bandying about Jerry, Enrico. I heard Stu Finer's name being tossed about.
Oh, get Stu to a race.
That is the most electric. Cocaine in your coffee, guys.
Get Stu to give the command. Stu could give the best command of all time.
Yeah. Frank the Tank, I think, wants to do some more stuff. That young lady, Mubi, and Kelly, who works with, is going to a couple of things.
Yep.
I know David expressed some interest in going to Sonoma. So there's a bunch of stuff that we'll be doing next season. And Aspire had said, thank you very much to everyone who makes this thing run. We'll see you in 2024. What do you got?
We'll see you at Daytona. I think that's, or maybe the Clash.
Yeah, we'll see you at Bowman Gray.
See you at Bowman Gray. That's our next stop. Until then, health and wealth to everyone, and thank you for your support.